So today's video will likely be anger-inducing for a lot of people, but also enlightening for some. So here we go. Today we're going to talk about why it is so important that we do not allow the interpretation of religious text to be perverted. Why we should all be vocal about religious text being twisted to fulfill a patriarchal agenda. The story of Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, or Lot in English, is often used as a defense of homophobia in Muslim society. If you don't know the story that I'm referring to of Prophet Lut, he was sent to the city of Sodom to bring prophetic guidance to the community there. Among the many things that the people of Sodom were engaged in that were believed to be a violation of God's supposed moral ethical codes, same-sex relations was one of them. The laundry list of other unethical behaviors were things like corruption and indecency and thievery and the mistreatment of travelers and strangers, exploitation, cruelty towards the most vulnerable. And one part of the story that is repeatedly overlooked, but if you closely examine this chapter, discusses the use of sexual violence as a tool of power. The way that the people of Sodom used sexual violence was not just about fulfilling personal maniacal desires, but was a way to assert dominance and power and control and humiliate those that were on the receiving end of the sexual abuse. Prophet Lut was sent to, again, bring prophetic guidance to the people of Sodom. He advised them against these actions, offered them a new path towards divinity and obedience to God, and they rejected him. Because of this rejection, God destroyed the city of Sodom. God's punishment of the city was violent and swift. The city of Sodom was turned upside down, with the ground literally being lifted and smashed back down, and then it rained hard rocks of clay, killing everyone in the city except for Prophet Lut and those who chose to follow him. A lot of people with an agenda will use this prophetic story as a defense of their hatred and their fear of queerness, which very terribly and very incorrectly positions queerness as something that is worse than sexual violence and rape culture. Here's where it's going to piss off the zealots. Also incorrectly insinuates that queerness is wrong or terrible at all. God did not destroy the city of Sodom because of gay men. He destroyed the city because they were using sexual violence and rape as a form of dominance and power and control. They used rape as a tactic of humiliation to gain that dominance and power and control over people. And it's important that we recognize and acknowledge this being the actual storyline and God's warning through giving us this story, because it will help us recognize what we're seeing in Israeli society. Based on a poll from 2011, so the numbers are likely significantly higher now given what we're seeing coming out of Palestine, 61% of Israeli men don't believe that raping an acquaintance is wrong. As of August of this year, 65% of Jewish Israeli men oppose criminal prosecution for Israelis who use rape as a tactic of war. Israeli leaders have publicly stated that rape is a legitimate weapon. A report from 2020 found that 92% of rape cases opened up in Israeli courts were closed without charges, which means that rape is not criminalized in Israeli society. There is well-documented evidence of rape being used by Israelis against Palestinians back in 1949 and predating the 1948 Nakba, before they were called Israelis. Just last month, Israelis were protesting the arrest of 10 Israeli soldiers who were found raping Palestinians because they believed that they have a right to rape. They were protesting for their right to rape. Israeli rape of Palestinian men, women, and children is nothing but a way of obtaining dominance and control and power over us. It is a form of humiliation that leads to that power and dominance and control. Through the story of Prophet Lut, God shows us that a society that is infected with rape culture cannot exist. It shows us how unchecked power and impunity leads to widespread injustice, not just in that physical location where this rape culture exists, but how it could spread to the rest of the world, which is why the city of Sodom could no longer exist in God's eyes. Whether in the context of ancient Sodom or in today's context of Israeli society, it has been made clear that a society infected by rape culture simply cannot exist. Because if it exists in any part of the world, it will infect the rest of the world. It's important that we learn the true lessons that have been passed down to us through divine text. And be it through the success of the resistance or through divine intervention or a combination of both, I take comfort in knowing that one day Israeli society will no longer exist.